Put it on, girl. Let me see it. Put it on, girl. Let me see it.
All right, let's get into it. Now, it's a story that's been dropping new headlines hourly. Now, we are talking, of course, about the Diddy trial, and jury selection started this week. Now, today, we have an insider to break it all down for us. She's Karma's chief correspondent, and she's been breaking news about Diddy and these allegations against him since before he was arrested, and as well as many other cases. Please welcome to the show the beautiful, the amazing, you don't want to get on her bad side, Tisa Tells. What's up, Tisa?
Hi, Claudia. Hi, Erica. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
No, you know I just adore you, and I've been a fan of yours since I saw you covering the Simon Gabati Housewives of Atlanta, and your amazing impersonation you do of him, where you sound just like Yoda. I think it's so funny.
Yeah, who would have thought that would have come at such a horrible time in Trump's America that he got caught entering the country illegal?
Really?
Just, oof. That was just a bad one. It was bad.
So you can't write that. That is completely unscripted. But
yeah.
I was telling you just briefly how much of a fan I've been of yours. I talked about you on when I was doing Daily Blast Live because you got me through the Diddy, the whole full Diddy of it all. I watched your coverage because it was so comprehensive. It was speaking directly to us as, novice in terms of legal. And I remember going on the show and they were like, well, who's really read all 80 pages or however many pages? And I said, I didn't read it. However, Tisa went through the whole thing with me. And then one of my co-hosts said, oh, so now we're just going to listen to YouTubers as if it's fact. And I said, well, first of all, let me be very clear, because the way that she broke this down was not like just, yes, of course, there was some added nuance there. But at the same time, it was very factual. It was straight to the point. It gave us the information we needed it when we needed it. So kudos to you, and I'm so glad to have you on.
And she does it with
so much.
And she does it with everything that she covers. She doesn't just give you the surface, the cliff notes. She actually does a deep dive on every single story, and that's why I'm also a fan of hers as well. She's so thorough, beautiful, fun, quirky. Like this girl.
Thank you, Claudia. You are a legend, the OG. Erica, you are always doing your thing. Thank you so much for such the kindness. Like, seriously, I really, really appreciate it.
You deserve all of it, and you will get many, many more. And we're going to get you on something now. We're going to do something. Well, we're doing something today. Okay, so let's get right into it now. Tisa, before we get into the latest details, tell our informers where they are with the jury selection.
Okay, so where they are with the jury selection, they've actually taken a semi-break till Friday. So there were about 500 people. It's voir dire. Usually with voir dire, what happens is, and I'll just make it really quick, the jury, both sides, prosecution and defense, can keep asking questions like, do you like Diddy? And somebody comes in saying, I hate Diddy, I hope he die. Other people are like, free Diddy. They're trying to get away the most biased people. You cannot stop bias from coming into a jury completely, because it's supposed to reflect what America is, with the average public. We all have our thoughts and opinions. However, with Southern District in New York, the voir dire is a little bit different. The judge is the one that tells everybody, they ask the questions and the judge strikes people. And the defense and prosecution have to say, well, judge, can you ask him this question? Why is that important? Diddy got on the judge's side, bad side, way back then when he played the judge and evidence was admitted and the judge made a ruling on evidence that didn't exist. Diddy said that his notes were taken and it said, this is legal notes, you can't touch this is attorney-client privilege. The judge ruled on it, striked it, and then they found out later that didn't even exist, that they had just lied about it. So, or at least misled the judge. So the judge has already not been on Diddy's side. And usually in voir dire like this, that's when people start to get nervous. So 12 people were struck for cause. Some of them were very pro-Diddy, very anti-Diddy. They're trying to get anybody, especially women that have ever experienced abuse of any kind, anybody that works with children, which I thought was weird. I was like, what is the correlation, right? There was one person that was struck because they helped, underserved children and children that were in high risk. I said, that's kind of weird. But basically, they're trying to get everybody off there that shows a shred of human decency, and that their job is tied to helping any type of victims or advocacy. They got 12 people out of there so far. There were a lot of people that were just struck because they were saying crazy stuff. Now they have it down to 45 people. Today, the judge was like, all right, let's get this thing going. Because we can get our 12 people, and then there's going to be 6 alternates. The alternates are if somebody dies, goes crazy, or they find out anything weird about the jurors. So then the Diddy side said, no, we'll do this all on Friday. So they want it moved all to Friday. That's probably because of issues with victim number 3. And also there's an issue with another victim I hear too. So that's where we are. We are down to 45, and Friday we will have the final jury.
Okay. I can understand I'm going back and forth about the people who are advocates, because as someone who's worked in child advocacy, we are mandatory reporters. So the way that we're absorbing information might be through a lens very different than someone who isn't considered a mandatory reporter.
Yeah.
But that being said, that might also work against him, because at the end of the day, we're also very much in non-bias training, which means that we should be able to see both sides without necessarily forming an opinion right away. So that's an interesting thing. Another thing that struck me as interesting today was we got a major name that kind of has been floated out in the ether, and it's Michael B. Jordan. Why is Michael's name being mentioned in the Diddy trial?
Michael's name is being mentioned because Mr. Jordan does not fear God. At the very least, he does not fear Diddy. It's almost like when worlds collide, okay? And not to make light of the case, but it is very juicy. Michael B. Jordan. Apparently in 2014, Michael and Cassie had a flirtation. Okay, Diddy found out about it, threatened Michael, and said, you better back up. Michael said, still kept on seeing Cassie, right? It's a flirtation. We don't know how bad it got, but he still kept on seeing Cassie. But it is kind of like when worlds collide, that a few years later, he was also dating Lori Harvey. Now, we don't know if Lori and Diddy dated. There are pictures of them walking, and they had dinner with Lori's parents. So who knows what happened with that? But it's rumored that Diddy maybe had a crush or something on Lori. Anyway, Michael B. Jordan not only talked to Cassie and didn't care, and this is Diddy, who literally, according to Kid Cudi, blew his car up. But now he then moved on to, not Lauren London, if I said that, Lori Harvey.
Yeah.
He moved on to Lori Harvey. So that's why Michael B. Jordan's name was being mentioned. Now, to be fair, there could be an extra layer, and because it's like, for something that little, why would you mention it? However, Cassie did mention Michael B. Jordan in her lawsuit, but it was unnamed. So in the lawsuit with Diddy, she did say there was an unknown celebrity, blah, 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 blah. So Michael B. Jordan's name was actually doxed. I also think the defense used it as a litmus test to actually see, if people were starstruck, if they were chasing a dollar, because being a juror on these type of trials, it's actually pretty big money. You can, get paid for your, for interviews. You can write a book, What I Saw Behind My Eyes. And if Diddy actually gets off, and I don't think it's going to happen, but if he does get off, that is going to be a multi-million-dollar book deal. So, you have me, I would just be nosy wanting to sit there, right? But also there's real money involved, and it could actually really give exposure to people that might want a little celebrity fame or money of their own. So, yeah.
Now, as for Diddy and Lori Harvey allegedly dating, I was at the famous strip club in Atlanta, the most popular one?
The Queen of Diamonds or King of Diamonds?
The King of Diamonds?
Jaguars?
Anyways, I saw Lori and Diddy together in the strip club. They were very much together there, okay? I saw it with my own eyes. This is not second or third party information. I saw them. I think I even tried to sneak and take a picture. I might even have it in my phone. If I find the pizza, I'll send it to you. But I definitely saw that. I saw them together in Atlanta.
Claudia, did you hit them with the acting like you were taking a picture of your lemon pepper wings? Like, okay.
Yeah, I sure was. Zoomed in and everything. She had a white button-down shirt on, looking very conservative, and she was with Diddy, and they were having a good time on the other side of the strip club. Definitely.
You heard it here first and only here.
It's true. I've never told anyone about that. Okay. All right, let's get into this. Okay, now we want to get into this part of the story now. You broke this tea today. You broke this tea about a story about a male escort who said he was Diddy's sex slave. Now tell us, who is Jonathan Odie and why is he in the headlines today?
Okay, so yes, I broke that story in 2023, But all jokes aside, right? When I broke that story, I remember the interview that happened he was actually somebody that was arrested for going into Trump's Doral. It's a hotel down in Florida, right?
Oh, that was that guy. I remember you broke that. That was the
Yes.
guy that looked like he was like Arab, like
Yes.
I'm not
Yes.
sure nationality, but yes.
Yes. So let me just give everybody a backstory really quick. So you see from the footage, right? Everybody said that he went in there and he tried to go bang, bang, bang all over the Trump Doral. The police chief actually did a conference and said, no, that's not what it was. We believe that the police were the target because he went in there, shot in the air, told all the civilians to get out, and then told the people behind the desk, before you go, call the police. The dancing bear, there's a whole history in Florida about the dancing bear, the way the police were using their official email as a burner account to order escorts. It's a whole big deal, right? I did videos about it. Anyway, in that confession, because it was taped, there was a Patreon that a lot of police used where they would show these type of confession videos. Okay, in that video, he was talking about Trump, but then he went left and he started talking about Diddy, Cassie, the hip hop agenda, DJ Khaled, Rick Ross. He was talking about everything. He even was saying that Diddy was using liquid Colombian dancing dust in Ciroc bottles in private jets and flying it around. Why was that so groundbreaking? And I was like, oh my God, because the confession was taped in 2018. However, he was talking about events that happened in 2014, a settlement he signed for $5 million because he said Diddy gave him something, right? Diddy gave him something and he knew all Diddy's business. However, even more surprising, okay, was in 2000, he said that this all occurred by him being the slave of Diddy and Cassie in 2012, 2013. So that's how it all came together. I did a lot of research. There's a whole bunch of other facts behind it, but that is the gist. However, all the research has now been vindicated because what seemed like a far-fetched conspiracy, today the major media outlets got the NDA that Diddy signed on June 9, 2014, okay? With Jonathan Oddie and Diddy, it is signed, notary sealed, attorneys' names are on there, and it was actually released. Jonathan Oddie's wife also did a tell-all interview that also corroborated almost all the claims. So it leads us back to Jonathan Oddie and how did a man in 2012 give us verbatim what a freak off was, down to even Cassie, Diddy, and what happened during a random interview about shooting up the Trump Doral in 2018. It was heavy. It was
And he
heavy.
said he was given herpes, allegedly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, we can say that. Well, Jonathan Oddie says that he was paid somewhere between 4.5 and 5 million to settle with Diddy because Diddy gave him herpes in a freak off. Yes.
Right. And the strip club was Magic City. I couldn't remember.
Magic City.
Magic City.
Okay, so I remember you breaking the story, and there was some, because of the year, because this was back in 2018 that the videos from.
Yes, 2018.
Okay, so I remember you alluding to something about the venue. Is there any significance to why it was that night, that venue?
As far as the Trump hotel?
Yes.
Okay, so the whole thing is, he also talked about this agenda where Mark Garagos, who is Diddy's current lawyer, and also Ben Masalas, who is the Midas touch, right? Big Democratic thing, how they were trying to set up Donald Trump through Stormy Daniels, i.e. Michael Avenatti. We saw what happened to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that he was there to warn Trump and to defend him against the hip hop agenda, which was Diddy, DJ Khaled, Ciroc, move and wait. Again, this came out when he was trying to show how legit he was and how he knows all this, saying, listen, Diddy and Cassie had me as a blank slave. I did this. He described the freak offs. He described this. Now, the venue was very, very interesting because, again, getting back into the thing, I think there were 16 or 17 either police officers or deputies, I don't know what they call them, in Miami, that literally were implicated. Some of them were fired, some of them were put on leave for the fact that they were frequent customers of the Dancing Bear. So law enforcement, and if you remember, a lot of people's lawsuits against Diddy said that law enforcement were there, some in uniform and some plainclothes clothes. They saw what happened, and a lot of people felt like they couldn't speak because the law enforcement was in it. Again, it's one of those weird things, and you have to think, why would someone just flip out and want to ambush the police of all reasons? So again, it gets stranger and stranger. I did a lot of videos about it, but the rabbit hole goes really, really deep.
Yeah. So in terms, you already talked about the jury potentially being selected by Friday.
Yes, they will be selected 100%.
Okay. And then in terms of venue, there's been some talk about the venue. What are you thinking about that?
So listen, it's a classic legal maneuver. And at this point, Diddy needs everything he can. I do not believe in my heart of hearts that Diddy was prepared for trial. We saw Anthony Rico. He is a skilled trial attorney. He quit a few weeks back because he said for ethical reasons. And he also said, I don't think you're ready for trial. Okay. With the venue, Diddy's team is trying to prove, and this is something they've been saying over and over again, that coverage has been so sensational, so just prejudicial, that there's no way Diddy can actually get a fair trial in the city of New York, in the state of New York, and definitely not in the Southern District of New York. Diddy's team is trying a Hail Mary, which is why they want to wait till Friday. Because if they wait till Friday and they pull this cute-ish, excuse my language, then the judge will have to rule on it before the trial starts. They would very much like a change of venue. If the change of venue does happen because they show it's like the jury pool is too polluted, that will at least move the trial another 3 months. However, the prosecution is locked in where they are at their investigation. They can't continue the investigation. So they are hoping by moving it to Friday that they can last minute be like, he can't get a fair trial. Or they find a juror lying. Now, a lot of jurors want to be on that. Usually jurors are literally trying to fake their own death so they can get out of jury duty. Every juror now is like, oh, absolutely. I mean, I've heard of Diddy, but I'm not sure. What did he do? Everybody is acting cute because they want to be on this jury. However, Diddy's team is also hoping that somebody lies. If they can prove, if somebody says, oh, I don't really know that much about Diddy, and then you find my burner account and I'm tweeting up a storm saying this and that, I hope he rots in hell, that can result in definitely a mistrial. It can result in an overturned conviction on appeal. It can result in so many things. So they have a bunch of pots brewing, hoping a juror is dishonest. They also have a bunch of pots brewing where they are hoping that they can say, Your Honor, this has been a media spectacle and he needs to be moved. And that will buy him probably at least 3 months more before he goes to trial. That said, this is why you don't lie to the judge. Because again, I'm sure the judge is professional and doesn't hold it personally against Diddy, but you can only lie to somebody and make them look stupid professionally before they start watching everything you do. So Diddy doesn't have much grace from the judge. So yeah,
wow. I am so into this. I could watch you all day, all night. Here's my question, because based on what you're saying, it appears that the strategy that they don't necessarily have a strong strategy going in. So the strategy is actually utilizing the system in order to work in Diddy's favor. So because we all know that we have the right to a speedy trial, but generally people won't do that, because in a trial like this, where you're looking at potential life, you generally want to take the time to get your affairs in order. If you're pursuing a speedy trial, then generally that means that your case is going to be put together before the state's case or the federal case. Like, you're more confident. So if you're coming in less confident but speedy, then you're really kind of depending on there being something happening within the judicial system that works in your favor.
No, that's a fair point. And actually, there is a lot of evidence to support that. For one, let's not forget that at one point, the prosecution team was flying over to the UK. They announced that. They also flew over to Belize. They were looking at this as an international crime ring. By Diddy saying, I want a speedy trial, to us, it's like, are you insane? Like, I'm not spending 40 years in jail. However, if you look at it through the lens that there might be something even bigger, that they're investigating. If you give the federal government a year, you don't know what they're going to come up with. By forcing them to a speedy trial, it limited the amount of months the investigation. When I first broke that Diddy was under federal investigation, and even TMZ was like, please, he's not. And everybody's like, well, if he's under federal investigation, when's he going to get arrested? And I kept saying, you guys, this investigation can go on for a year or two. When the Southern District of New York comes, they want to come correct. However, by running to a speedy trial, you ensured that you limited the scope of their investigation, and they really concentrated. Diddy misestimated a little bit, because as much as people want to be into stripper culture and, oh, they're just swingers, you are still talking about illegal activity. And if all of us are up shoplifting in, Walgreens, really need what I cannot get caught and be like, well, Claudia and Erica was stealing too. Okay, well, we will, but for right now, we're focusing on you. So Diddy did it, and it makes you wonder, what really were you afraid of the federal government actually finding that you were willing to rush the trial? What were you afraid of finding? So.
Wow. So this thing might be mind blowing when we get all the information when it comes out, if we eventually get to find out what exactly he's so afraid of. Speaking of being afraid, Tisa, I want to ask you, and this is about you. You've done deep dives on lots of folks, and you have done very thorough reports on people. Have you ever been personally threatened by the subjects that you're investigating? You had to.
I mean, no.
Really?
I've had people say dumb stuff, like they was going to show up at my house or this and that. But it's just like, please, I stayed with that blicky in the lock case, so we can do that if you want. I am licensed to carry. We can do that if you want. But all jokes aside, it's kind of like, to the point of actually feeling I was in danger. No, I mean, I think that I want to say I'm doing the Lord's work, but let me shut up, because the Lord is like, nobody told you to gossip, right? But at the end of the day, I do feel like, because it is always kind of wrapped up with things that are very, very close to the law,
Yeah.
It's not like that you can come out and actually do something. When I say, and I'm sure you do too, Claudia, all the time, I get the craziest things in my DMs. People drop the craziest tea. If people knew how much, but it's kind of like, okay, let me slow down on that. Let's talk about things that can be, at least I believe, based upon information and belief, proven in some sort of legal setting,
Right.
or also with people that have things to do. I do know that when I first started reporting on Diddy, and this is when he was with Young Miami, I was like, what is that old man doing with Miami? Like, really? I thought,
yeah, that was weird.
It was weird. But I remember I got people that I actually really trusted a lot being like, yo, Diddy's in the grimy stuff. Diddy like to, send people to jump on people. You might not want to make a Diddy story if you don't happen. I remember even with the Gina Han stuff, one of the reasons why that Gina Han stuff, and that's Diddy's ex-girlfriend who Tasha K interviewed, that did also, one of the reasons it really didn't blow up is because people said Diddy put the word out that nobody better cover it. And that story died. And Gina Han's story, at least compared to Cassie's lawsuit, was a million times worse. I'm sure we'll hear more from Cassie in the trial, but that interview was like, oh my God, it seemed unbelievable. And now is right in what we know with Diddy.
I want to be able to get it out. I did get a text message from a Philadelphia phone number one time, and it said, yo, stop talking about such and such and such and such. I'll share that with you on a DM on a text. And it was kind of threatening. And I tried to call it back, and no one would ever answer.
Yeah.
But it was about one of the big names out there that they like to link me to. But it was, I was like, okay, you don't know if it's sometimes someone just gets a hold of your phone number or if it's a legitimate threat.
It's scary to have your phone number though.
Yeah. Well, my number's been out there in the streets for a long time.
Oh, okay. Well, still. So
they put it out there. All right. So you tease that you have big things planned for next week when the trial starts. Anything you can share with us, Ms. Tisa?
So the government, I'm trying to think, because the trial's starting. There's going to be a few big surprises next week. The biggest problem is with not just, so witness number 3, they're not missing. They basically told the government that they don't want to testify. The government just today told everybody that witness number 3 is not testifying at all. So they're not even going to bother going down. This is one of the victims, okay? People are speculating that it might be Gina Han, it might be Aubrey. The government has subpoenaed that witness, but you know how it is with subpoena witnesses. When you know you have a hostile witness, what's the point? If somebody doesn't want to, they're just letting it go. There's also an issue with another witness that they are saying is hell-bent on painting Cassie as she's not just an angel, she's not just a victim, she's not an angel, and she is one of the co-conspirators, because from their viewpoint, Cassie is culpable. Now, I got to be honest with you. Do I think it'll work? No, because Cassie had no financial control. Cassie couldn't even text somebody about Diddy being on her butt. Like, Cassie was literally like kept in a golden cage. So for someone to suggest that she was also a gazelle Maxwell and enjoyed every minute, it seems like it's feeding into this little dumb swingers theory, dumb in my opinion, that Diddy has. So in one day, victim 3, the government said, guess what, they're not testifying. There's another victim that is really like a wild card, right? The prosecutors are going to have to deal with them. And then Justin Combs just posted something about thank you, Lord, and my salvation, quoting Peter, Paul, Mary, whatever, Romans. And it's just like, yeah, this is a very interesting development. And then plus with Diddy's team saying, you know what, I know we can end jury selection today, but let's end it Friday. People are saying that Diddy's team has something very cute set up for Friday. And they're going to do their best with this information to actually move the trial, or at the very least, they think that they have found a way to weaken the prosecutor's case very much.
I think from my personal sources and text messages, I do think Aubrey does not want to testify. I think her life, which is, I know she's been very vocal about it. This is just a hunch. I allegedly. But I know she wants not to be involved right now. I think her life probably has been affected enough by dealing with him. You know what I mean? She's been through.
It feels like it's such a. I mean, it feels like it's almost like it's time for that reckoning to be resolved in a lot of ways. And I think that Aubrey was someone who's been vocal very early on, and she's been consistent. And I think, a lot of times, and I'm not ever going to, say anything against someone who doesn't want to participate as a victim in the judicial process. I mean, that's a very personal decision. But I would hope that if she were called or she had the opportunity, that she would take advantage of that. That could be a very cathartic thing for people who have been the victim. And that being said, when you brought up the Cassie thing, I've just questioned whoever comes in and, allegedly to come in and basically paint Cassie as a perpetrator. I wonder if they would have done that even a year ago, because I think the climate is making it a little bit more palatable for people to have more nuance and two sides of this conversation. But I'll just say, just in my personal experience, and I do not know a whole lot, but I met Cassie, well, it was a couple times, but the last time that I was in a room with her and interviewed her, I was doing morning radio in Chicago. I interviewed her that night. We were supposed to go out, and A&R contacted me and said, she can't come out. And this is like, it was yesterday. She can't come out. Diddy's not allowing her to. And I said, why wouldn't Diddy? Why? It was very confusing.
Yeah.
She was so young. I was going to sneak her into a nightclub. Like she was not even 21. She was like 19 or 20. But I went to nightclubs in 1920. I was like 23,
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'll take you. And she goes, no, it's going to break tomorrow. Diddy and Cassie are together. And I said, my immediate reaction was, he's dating that little girl? Like, she was a child. She was a true 19-year-old. Like, she reminded me of myself when I was like, I want to go to a nightclub. Yeah.
No, listen, that story, again, it puts it so much in the focus. what was Diddy and Cassie's dynamic. And I feel like most women, because again, I don't know what men go through, but I can speak for as a woman, most women know that even if we thought we knew everything at 19, we knew nothing. We knew nothing. And especially with someone that was almost double our age, it is so easy to take advantage of 19-year-olds. I think that's why half of these people that date people that young, they like it. Because, you know, you have it. I will say with the Diddy thing, I'll be the one to say it. I find it interesting that Diddy was put in jail for bribery and intimidation and even violence. And now one witness gone, second witness of a victim, one victim gone, second victim, now they're wavering. And Justin is doing victory laps, talking about, thank you, God. I just wonder how many dollars God had to put in people's bank accounts. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I totally think, yeah, I know I mentioned Aubrey. I definitely agree with you. I think it's Aubrey or Gina. And I think that these are people that are still afraid and still worried and still probably don't believe that he will ever really get his punishment because they've been close enough to see the power and see what he's done to other people allegedly. So I think that that's why these two, I can't blame them for feeling that way. But like if there was ever a time to join forces and put him away, it's now. There's power in numbers. He's been weakened, you guys. Like, I get it, but I do understand how it is to testify in a big trial like this and the intimidation factor. Sadly, I do understand what this feels like. So
you make some really good points, Claudia. I will just say for anybody, I hope it's just their own consciousness doing it, because the federal government has a way of finding out things. So if it is anything else besides, I just don't want to be involved, they will find out. And it doesn't matter whether they find out a year from now or 5 years from now. They will throw the book at you just for obstruction of justice. So again, I hope everybody is being careful. And again, like you said, if you're a victim, you got to let your conscience be your guide. At the end of the day, this is a story for us, but it's their real lives, you know? So definitely, I agree. I'm not going to judge anyone. Do what you want. I just hope everything is on the up and up, you know, for their sake, not for anybody else's. So, yeah.
And kudos to the ones that, with all that is on the line and how probably nervous they are as well, that still choose to move forward, and they will get justice for all of you.
Yeah.
You know, they will get justice, but power in numbers, I'm telling you, power in numbers, ladies and gentlemen that have been abused.
Yeah. Well, Tisa, I got to ask you though, what do you think is going to happen with this trial?
I mean, honestly, Diddy's going to be found guilty. I think that sometimes we get so desensitized, especially when it comes into like moral depravity, you know? Is it illegal to be a swinger? No. But can you pay somebody to be your third? Absolutely not. Diddy has done so much. I think that this case is open and shut. Now, granted, in the court of public opinion, they might hold a little bit more, because there might be people that say, oh, they were swingers, they were this, they were that. But I feel like when the federal government, especially the Southern District of New York, there is no corruption there. There's no second guessing. They are about their business, and they only bring up charges that they know 100% they can 100%. They have psychological experts. They have mental evaluators. They even know what victims are like a little shaky and might run. I'm sure this victim 3, they already had some clue, and they were like, you know what, just forget it. Like, just cut her loose. It's not worth it. Interesting enough, Diddy is not calling victim 3. So whatever victim 3 has to say is not good for Diddy either. But I 100% believe, and again, I'm not Nostradamus, I will be shocked if Diddy actually walks free. I believe the Southern District of New York is dead to rights, and Diddy can march in there with 12 lawyers. They, as of right now, where the evidence is, they have you dead to rights. And somebody saying to a beautiful, crying, pregnant Cassie, she wanted it, and it was swingers, while we're watching that horrific video, it's like, come on. You know, it just doesn't make sense. So
I really hate that a lot of times
out there like that, though. Like,
I'm so what? What'd you say, Erica?
Who would put themselves out there to say? Who would fix their mouths to say something like that? Really?
They do it all the time, though. You know, when you see victims, and I will say, even in our community, it seems like if it's a man and a woman, right, black man, black woman, the women tend to get demonized. Now, at first, there was a lot of empathy for Cassie. And then as time goes on, you hear people start to come out the woodwork. Well, she may have wanted it. Oh, she was just trying to get money. And people start to turn on her. At first, everyone was on the same page. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
The victim. Then you see little by little, people trying to like put the blame back on her. This was a woman, like Erica said, like Tisa said, that was a child that was very naive and young and was definitely manipulated by this man. Like
manipulated and abused, but then also offered a life that most 19-year-olds would dream about. You know, it's like that is how the mental bonds. But my sources tell me that once Cassie sits down and tells it, it's going to make her lawsuit pale. She left a lot out of that lawsuit. So for them to say it was all good times and swingers, but that said, Claudia, I definitely think you bring up a good point. I've noticed and listen, I'm just on my couch talking trash. I'm not mixy. I'm not in the industry. I'm not doing this and that. But it shocks me how much when people think there is a little bit of money or power to get, the way they will completely abandon. I wouldn't say they won't abandon their morals, but the way as long as it doesn't happen to anyone they care about, they don't care.
And they think, and it's almost like she's penalized because she benefited from a luxurious lifestyle that you see, but you don't see the ass whoopings behind the rape, alleged, all that stuff. Yeah. You don't see that part. So a lot of people tend to say, well, she benefited from it and she had a good life. I'm sure if she can go back and not be having her butt kicked on camera in elevators and have to cover her face with towels and blankets and have to get her boobs redone at the orders of the man she's with 2 weeks after the original surgery and the countless other disgusting things that she has talked about. I'm sure she'd rather not have that than the money right now. But people on the outside will say, oh no, she knew what she was getting herself into. She knew. And I just wish people would just be a little bit more empathetic. This woman was 19 years old or maybe 18 when she first got with them. And it's very easy to manipulate someone like that.
I completely agree with you. And also the good thing is in 2012, it's not changing quick enough. But Erica, Claudia, in the last 10 years, the way people treat DV, abuse, even acknowledging what's happening, thank God the way that most people think is changing. So even regardless of what happens in the Diddy trial, thank God that this is going to be a big step forward for people for understanding what it is that like sometimes when I see somebody's in an abusive relationship and they have all I see are golden shackles. You know, you actually have a harder time leaving than just me dating like the fried cook in IHOP. No shade to IHOP, fried cooks. But you get what I'm saying? Like, if I'm paying all the bills, I'm doing this and that, it's almost easier to leave because you're like, what is going on as opposed to those golden shackles? So I think awareness is being raised. Thank goodness.
You absolutely. I've mentioned this before, but back in 1991, I testified in the time at the biggest celebrity trial that had ever been going on before OJ. The girl that was raped by Mike Tyson was one of my best friends in high school.
Really?
We didn't go to the same high school. Yeah, Desiree Washington. And to see the way that people were to her back then in 91 was horrific. It ruined her life. And to see how people are still continuing to blame the victim even now. But we have made some progress where there is a little bit more empathy from some people. But what disgusts me the most in that case and in this case is the amount of women that are willing to, but still, for the R. Kellys, for the Diddys of the world. And we got to do a better job of not believing everyone, because some people do lie. But when you have so much evidence and repeat offenders time after time after time, stop giving them passes because you're a fan of their work, their sport, or their music. Because people that are superstars rape, molest, and kill too. Okay? They do.
Eat it up, Claudia. Eat it up. Eat it up. Exactly.
A lot of it too, it's like it really is based on the idea that the world really needs a healing, because I can tell you for every person, especially talking about females who are very critical of women who are victims, a lot of that is self-preservation. Like when people are defending the idea of, oh, well, she made him or, enticed him or whatever, they're defending things that have happened to them, around them, things that have been normalized. I mean, it's the same way when people are very critical towards things that actually apply to them. It's a lot of self-loathing that's at the root of those things. So anytime I hear someone say something like that, or, they're very critical against female victims, I'm always like, I take a moment to just like give them a little grace in their soul, because I know that it's got to be so painful. But at the end of the day, that's what therapy's for. And you can't be bleeding all over other people because you haven't taken the time to get the help that you need.
That is such a good point. You guys, listen, you guys are cooking today and preaching. Like, you guys hit it on the head about what happens with the victims and also that self-loathing. Because what else could it be? It actually doesn't make sense, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before we end this, I just want to also say one last thing about cases like this.
Mhm.
This is why I will always go very hard on people who bring up false allegations against people, because it damages and hurts and compromises the real victims out here. And it takes people's empathy away when they hear a case of someone just trying to get a bag. But trust and believe, when people come out with allegations of SA, rape, and all that, it's very, very hard to get a conviction with these cases. So I tend to believe them more than not. But to the ones that are out there that ever put any kind of false allegations on anyone, shame on you. May you rot in hell, because it definitely compromises the real victims out here. Listen, if you have 4 women in a room, probably like 2 or 3 of them have an issue, have had some experience with sexual abuse. I'm not asking anyone on the panel right now. I already know some of the answers. It's very, very, very common. Please stop believing that people that you admire in this business or in any sport, any field of sports entertainment, that they are beyond this. It's so common. A lot of times people don't even think they're essaying someone because they're so entitled and they've never been checked when they were a high school star, a college star, a star, in their adult years.
Yeah.
And then we have monsters. And then when they have all this money, they can pay people off. And then it's so hard to fight this. So I tip my hat to every victim that's come forward in these high profile cases, because people have money to make you disappear, to bribe other witnesses, to make you look like a liar, to go pay someone to say, back in high school, she was a whore. Or I know that she, they do this, you guys. It happens. There's a lot of money being sent in and exchanging hands to protect the rich person.
Yeah.
So
yeah, eat it up, Claudia. You said a word, and people are going to come to realize that. So, I will say thank God for the internet, right? It gives everybody, good and bad, a voice, but thank goodness when it comes to victims' rights, the good voices are amplified, and a victim's voice can be amplified very, very clearly. So, yeah, and even what you guys are doing, like, thank God for other voices,
Well, thank you very much. Should we talk about Smokey before we go? Do we have time?
The producers say we don't have time, but I was like, do you hear that? Oh no, they're on the other side of that one.
Okay, all good. I play golf with him. We're going to get into that next week. Tisa, we would love to have you back in the future. You know so much about so many different things. You're so like you're an encyclopedia of knowledge, and you do the work. So we and our old selves, my old self, you don't have to. Okay.
No, I'd love to come back. Just let me know. Thank you guys so much for even keeping me involved and having me. I really appreciate it. I really, really loved it. So thank you guys.
We loved it too. So thank you so much for joining us. Informers, please subscribe to Tisa's YouTube page. You can find her at Tisa Tells. Tisa, we love you. We appreciate you. And we respect what you got going on. You are doing your thing, girl.
Oh, thank you, Claudia. That means so much coming from me, because you are Miss Queen. Do your thing consistently. Erica, you too. Thank you so much, you guys.
Huge fan. Thank you. She's awesome. I love her.
I am obsessed with her. I got to find that clip because I went off. In her defense. I didn't even know her. I was just like, no.
Well, now you have her number, so we can have her back on. I'm sorry I made that executive decision without asking you first, but I think you agree. We need to have her back on, right?
Definitely. If we can get her, absolutely. Absolutely.
And let me tell you something. Tisa stay in another country, okay? She's always in some exotic, beautiful place. So the fact that we got her on some decent Wi-Fi and she was able to spend 50 minutes with us we did that. Okay?
I love it. I love it.
Put it on, girl. Let me see it. Put it on, girl. Let me see it.